In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern. We do have a tropical threat throughout the Gulf of Mexico that odds have slightly decreased, so there is some good news there, but we're going to be deep diving into that as there is still a chance. Taking a look at the temperature pattern as well as storms around the nation. We are officially in the month of October as it is now October 1st, so we're going to be taking a big deep dive into how September turned out. First off, before we really dive into it, here is the past 7 days. We do have some average to below average temperatures that did occur over the past 7 days for the South Central and some of the deeper South states, but really it was a torch, especially in kind of the Rockies and through the northern plains. Some of the Great Lakes into the Ohio Valley here as well was quite warm. But overall, I mean, you can tell that 90% of the nation is above average for the past 7 days, so that final week of September. Here's the month-to-date temperatures. As you can see, that kind of northwest Rockies into the northern plains and upper Midwest was the warmest spots for the month of September. We did have a relatively warm southwest as well. I would say overall the warmth was centered over the west here. We did have some of this trickle into the Ohio Valley and Great Lakes as well as the far north of the northeast there. And we had relatively decent temperatures throughout a lot of the south central and southeast states where we dealt with some below average temperatures, as you can see, for some of these areas. Very slight though. Most areas were just about average for the month of September. As we take a look at the total snowfall, I would say that this is not the most snowy I've ever seen it. We had some throughout the Sierra Nevada here, a couple of inches, and then up to a foot if you're nearby the kind of Yellowstone area. We had maybe 2 feet in some very high elevation areas, and then most of those Rocky Mountains, the very high elevations, did deal with at least a few inches of snowfall throughout the month of September. Total precipitation looked pretty much like this. Above average for some of the northern Rockies into a little bit of these plains just to the east of the Rockies there. The south central states here, we did have some precipitation move through here quite a bit. And then obviously we had quite a few tropical systems move through this deep south and southeast corridor, bringing about far above average precipitation. We did have very dry conditions throughout a lot of your kind of central states here, a lot of the eastern plains, kind of western Midwest, I would say. And then for the kind of mid-Atlantic up through the northeast here as well, we had below average precipitation. As we just move into the upcoming pattern, taking a look at some storms that are on the way, we do see a cold front moving in today on Tuesday, October 1st. Right here, this is mostly going to bring about cooler temperatures the further north you are. So we're seeing the Midwest and Great Lakes getting some of this already. This will impact the mid-Atlantic and northeast as well, especially. And we could get some showers or thunderstorms along this boundary here, so don't be surprised to see that occur. Here's the look by Wednesday. We see this weak cold front moving through these eastern states. So again, showers along that boundary are going to be likely. But really outside of that, we're really in a decline as far as activity is concerned, which is probably good news for most of you, obviously. Thursday on October 3rd, we do see a little bit of moisture picking up steam in the Gulf of Mexico. And again, we're going to be watching this area. We did see a 50% chance of development a couple of days ago. We're down to a 40% chance, so still relatively moderate as far as the chance of tropical development, but that is slightly decreasing, which for now we will take as good news, obviously. As we take a look at Friday here on October 4th, what we're seeing is a decent little trough here in the eastern states, impacting mostly the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, northeast here. We do see some showers along the Gulf Coast into the southeast, and then we do have a pretty decent storm system moving onshore to the northwest, where we're seeing rainfall for lower elevations, and some of those higher elevations like the Canadian Rockies or perhaps the Cascade Mountains, we are seeing some high elevation snowfall out there. So October getting to a little bit of a snowy start for some of these folks. Saturday on October 5th, we see this storm system races along this strong jet stream into southern Canada here. It's a 991, which is a pretty decent low pressure system. This is bringing about some cooler temperatures underneath it, some warmer temperatures out ahead of it, and that all is going to just shift eastward over time. We do see the Gulf moisture is there, but no strong low pressure systems to be seen. So good news there. Some showers and thunderstorms along the Gulf Coast, which is fairly typical, but no tropical development as of now. Sunday on the 6th, though, we do get a little bit of a sign of some development here, 1,005 over the northern Gulf, but this is relatively minor, I must say. I mean, this is nothing alarming yet that we're seeing. We have this low over the southern Hudson Bay, stronger cold front, and some cooler air. Once again, it seems like we're doing deja vu here, but we're seeing cooler temperatures in the upper Midwest, Great Lakes, and headed towards the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast once again. So let's take this forward towards Monday, and that cold front goes offshore, again, descending jet stream pattern into the east here, so we are seeing some cooler temperatures prevailing. That low in the Gulf is down to 1,004, so strengthening slightly, definitely something that we're going to be watching there. Some moisture making its way onto Florida as well by this point, so that's kind of where the most of the rainfall is happening at this point. A weak pressure system there over Western Canada is bringing some lighter to moderate rainfall, so keep that in mind. We continue to see these kind of Pacific Northwest storms move on shore. Tuesday the 8th, we still have that low in the middle of the Gulf with some moisture heading on to Florida, but really a quieter pattern here. Wednesday on October 9th, the same exact thing. We're just going to glance past that. Thursday on the 10th, relatively quiet outside of Florida, and same story for the 11th, although we have more cooler air still trending in for the Great Lakes and into the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic here with a nor'easter, a weak nor'easter offshore as well. So some interesting weather happening here in the east and a monster ridge out west. So that is going to be impactful as well. More warm and dry conditions out west could be the theme here through the first half of October. So that's something that we're going to be watching, obviously. As we take a look at the GFS model, I mostly want to take a deep dive into this tropical activity. We do see some development here, down to 1,003, a little bit stronger, but we really don't get that storm to really form at any point. We continue to see these kind of eastern cold fronts from time to time, especially in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic, but not really taking over the entire East, I would say. This is kind of the theme, if you can kind of pick up on it. I think this is a perfect example. So a pretty big ridge out west, smaller trough here in the east, so some cooler temperatures starting to make their way into the Northeast and Great Lakes, like I mentioned, but not really making it to the southeast or deep south by any means. With an overall warmer pattern out west, and then some storms moving on shore to the Pacific Northwest being kind of the theme here over the next 10 to 15 days. Total precipitation, therefore, really is looking very, very dry compared, unless you're in Florida, really, or the Gulf. We're seeing a lot of moisture there. So let's look at the anomalies. And sure enough, I mean, everywhere from California, Oregon, Washington to the eastern seaboard is below normal precipitation. And then we see above normal precipitation really taking over here for the Gulf of Mexico, including over top of Florida onto offshore of the east coast of Florida there. But that's basically it as far as above average precipitation. Snowfall, as you could imagine, is really low as well. We see some for the Cascades, very minimal amounts throughout the Rockies, so maybe an inch, if anything, for some of these mountain ranges, probably just flakes. As we take a look at the temperature pattern, we're going to see these cold fronts rolling through. Here's cold front number 1 there, moving in today on October 1st, 2nd, 3rd here. Here comes the next one. Here's the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. This is a decent one actually showing up on this GFS model. I mean, look at that. Below average temperatures all the way down to the deep south. So some of this is making its way there. Also to the Mid-Atlantic and Southeast coast. We get a brief cool down here, and it's really, really aided by this huge warm pattern out west. That's helping a whole lot. We see that kind of stick around like we saw in September a lot with these backdoor cold fronts, and this is one right here. We're going to see cold air kind of make its way to the east of the Appalachian Mountain Range and then head through down south the east coast here while we deal with relatively above normal temperatures to the west there. So watch this. That's a classic backdoor cold front. Moves into the northeast, down the mid-Atlantic coast, and sticks around for the southeast there. So some cooler temperatures on the eastern seaboard and really warmer everywhere else. So seeing a lot of that here in this upcoming pattern. And our long-range CFS model suggests that as well. October 2nd through 7th here, nothing to write home about, but the 7th through the 12th, mostly the East Coast seeing the most below normal temperatures. Here's the 12th through the 17th, same story. 17th through the 22nd, a lot of the same. 22nd to the 27th, we get cooler out west. We really don't see anything too significant until the end of this model run on the 10th through the 15th, where we get a more consistently cold pattern in the east. But that's, approaching Thanksgiving by that point, so that's quite a ways away. Definitely interesting to say the least. Here's the next 30 days overall, and again, perfectly reflects what we just saw in the GFS model. Backdoor cold fronts down the East Coast and really near normal to above normal for most areas west of that. So very interesting to say the least. As we take a look at the overall tropics on our 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook, again, we've lowered in the 48-hour department down from 10% to 0% again over the next 48 hours. A 40% chance remains for the next 7 days. Could see this drop from here, hopefully. So we're going to keep you guys updated every single day on that. Hurricane Kirk now has developed. We'll look at the cone forecast in a moment. And we still have a 90% chance of development here over the next 48 hours and the next 7 days here in what's being called AL91, Invest 91 there. Very interesting to see that occurring. And this one likely will be our next named storm. So we'll be watching that one very closely as well. Let's take a look here at Hurricane Kirk. And thankfully, this one looks to be an out-to-sea storm. It will be a monster, though, turning into a major hurricane by Thursday at 2 p.m., just 2 days from now. And remaining that way through Saturday before kind of lowering back down to a Category 2 or below by 2 p.m. on Sunday there. So we'll be watching this one, but thankfully out to sea and just over the ocean for now seems to be the theme. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. We will be updating you guys on all of these things, of course. Be sure to subscribe. We do upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.